south of New York City on the Jersey Shore, as they call it. To my right over here is the Atlantic Ocean. Our latitude is 40 degrees. That's approximately the same as Chico in Northern California. So I wanted to point out here when we look at climates that here we are at the same latitude. The Pacific coast would have pretty much rain, definitely not snow. Here you're going to get snow and it's going to stick around for a while. So we've definitely moved into the D climates or the severe climates. It has different names. But anyway, it's kind of cool being right here on the Jersey Shore and just seeing how it's so different than the Pacific coast.
We are in Manasquan, New Jersey, and the climate in the summer is warm and sunny. In the winter, we get snow, we get hail, we get freezing rain. If it's extended, the salt water in here will freeze up. Not often, but it can.
Yeah.
You will notice the Colgate signage. The clock used to sit on top of the Colgate company. The company.
Hey guys, it is so exciting to be in New York City in Central Park, and this is a great place to talk about climate on the East Coast. This is a D climate on the Köppen climate system. That's a severe climate where it snows. Earlier I was in New Jersey along the shore. We were looking at, even on the beach it can snow. It definitely snows here. So let's take a look at the vegetation and also the rocks around it. So again, talking about the trees here in Central Park in New York City. Basically they're called deciduous, and that means that the strategy to deal with the frost and the freezing temperatures is to simply lose their leaves. In California, where I'm from, what we find is needles, so up in the Sierra Nevadas. Here on the East Coast, they simply lose their leaves so that the frost doesn't kill them. So it's really neat being here in the middle of this gigantic city to see such, going back in time with nature. And there's trees everywhere I've been, especially as we get outside of the big city here, that indicate deciduous trees and that type of vegetation. Just in addition to the climate here in Central Park, I want to talk about the rocks because it is part of New York's story. Here you can see the rocks have lots of crystals in them. So this was clearly an igneous rock with these very thick crystals. Some kind of probably sedimentary rock that then was metamorphosed and liquefied to some degree and then recooled. Again, I'm not a geologist here, but you can definitely see some very unique rocks with the crystals here. Another thing that's pretty obvious is just a general layman is to see the glacial scratch marks, the glacial polish. And we know that glaciers came through the Hudson Valley and the other valleys around here, these continental-sized glaciers I might add, pushing that material forward, the terminal moraine, and creating these landforms that we have right here in the city.
That's New York City.
Named after Chelsea, England. But there's hundreds of different neighborhoods, in these 5 boroughs. And just to get back to Manhattan, or in another neighborhood, we talked about that Jenga building. It's in Tribeca. There's a neighborhood known as Tribeca. And Tribeca getting its name, another one of these acronyms.
Okay, so here we are just outside of New York City now in the nice rural areas in New Jersey. And again, more of these kind of deciduous leaves. The thing that really impresses me about the East Coast compared to the West Coast is just how lush everything is in the summertime. These types of leaves would dry up. It's just too hot and dry in California, unless of course it's irrigated and so on, but naturally speaking you wouldn't find it. Everywhere I look I see woodlands around here and happy folks, and that's really different than in the wintertime. I have drawn a climate graph, and you can see that here in New York City it only gets up into the 80s during the summer and it peaks during the summer solstice. I'm just a day off from the summer solstice, and then it gets down into freezing. Compare that to San Francisco, which is a Mediterranean climate. The Köppen letters right there is much more mild. It's only in the 50s, lower 50s, and then in the 60s along the coast. And then where I live in Sacramento, which is in the valley, we get a lot hotter. but we don't get to freezing temperatures, and it's much drier. One of the things I want to just kind of summarize with, the East Coast has distinct seasons. We have a summer rainstorm coming in tonight. And then of course we have lots of these woodlands and lots of farming that takes place when you get into the Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, where I'm heading here soon. So that does it for the D climates here on the East Coast.